All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cody Tucker Show. As always, I'm your host, Cody Tucker. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, comedy extraordinaire, Mr. J.F. Harris. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Nice to see you. Nice to be
Hell
here.
yeah. Dude, feelings mutual, man. I've been looking forward to this for sure. So before we kick into things, go ahead and plug, promote anything you got going on. Where can people find you? All that good stuff.
If people want to find me, my Instagram handle is the JF Harris, and it's the same across all forms of social media. And if people want to come see me on tour, I'm out touring around the US right now, and I'll be in France for the whole Olympics doing shows pretty much every night. I got a little 50-seat theater, and people can come out and check out
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
every night. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Have you done shows in France before? I mean, I know you've done like shows pretty much everywhere, it seems like.
On like 3 or 4 continents now. Kind of crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
I go to France at least every year for the past 3 or 4 years now, where I go and I do stand up there every year for normally about a month
Yeah.
because they have a really big English speaking stand up scene in Paris.
Right.
And so I'll just go and just like run a lot of sets. And
Yeah.
normally at the end of every trip, I'll do like one headline show. But this time around, because there's going to be so many tourists for the Olympics, I figured it might be a good time versus doing like an Edinburgh or something like that.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Is really just to go wherever the hell the Olympics are going.
Yeah, because people are going to
maybe not everywhere they go, but
yeah. People are gonna like need shit to do that's not the Olympics.
Yeah, and that isn't French, which that
yeah, and the majority of people speak English in Europe.
Yeah.
So it's like a good little way, because like in every friend group, no matter what, everybody speaks English.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's probably so many different like expats that live in France, from the US.
So many.
Which that's probably the case for probably most of the countries you've been to, I would imagine.
Yeah, when I go and perform internationally, like abroad, except for like India for the most part, like when you show up, I would say it's like 50% expats, 50% locals.
But not in India? Like that's
not in
how
India. India is like 95% Indian and like 5% like expats or Germans or something like that.
Really? Okay. So, because that's what I was kind of curious is whenever you're going to a country that, let's say India, where there's not a lot of expats, it's predominantly people from India. Do you have to like switch up your material to not?
None.
Really?
Almost 0%. Like once in a while, if I make like a reference, like like I have a joke that mentions Hot Topic, and they don't have Hot Topic in England or in India, so that'll like fall flat. So I'll just cut that one little part of the joke out of the joke.
Yes,
it's not like integral, but it's like just a nice little reference.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, damn, if you had like a big bit about Taco Bell and there's no Taco Bell in India, then
then I would just scrap the bit.
Right.
But for the most part, I generally just talk about my life in my stand-up and like what's going on. Or I might talk about like some politics in the US or stuff like that. And if I do, they know our politics, they know our pop culture.
Really? Okay.
But but also like if I was doing like a KFC joke, there's KFC everywhere.
Well, right. That's what I was wondering. Cause like, whether it be like McDonald's, KFC, whatever, there's some places that, probably universally you could use that 100%. Reference.
There is definitely a McDonald's somewhere in India.
Hell yeah.
But
it's probably so good too.
It's I can tell you this, the ones in Europe, people, especially in France, people swear it's way better. I couldn't bring myself to eating it, but people swear it's the best. When I was where was I? I was in Antwerp.
In Belgium?
Belgium. No, I'm sorry. I was in Rotterdam.
Okay.
And when I was performing after the show, someone came up to me and they said that Rotterdam's known for having the world's most beautiful McDonald's.
Wow, what a thing to be known for. Well,
I know, it's like saying you have the most beautiful asshole. It's like still kind of not great.
I mean, I would take it as a compliment. I mean, every time that my priest told me, I always thought it was a nice thing to say to someone. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, well, granted, Rotterdam was probably known for something else about 60 years ago,
Yeah.
80 years ago. So the most beautiful McDonald's might be a good step up.
Well, I'll also say this about Rotterdam, which is funny. In the switch to Amsterdam, like
Uh-huh.
Amsterdam, you go visit Amsterdam, it's very old world and beautiful, and it's all the traditional architecture. But
Hmm.
because Rotterdam was the spot where they dropped all the bombs during World War II,
Yeah.
Rotterdam's like a hip modern city, and
Yeah.
it still feels Dutch. But when you're walking around Rotterdam, like they take way more risks with their architecture. They have like cool arts buildings. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That's it's weird that certain parts of the country, which is a decently small country, would be that different. I mean,
It's
Amsterdam's
a
like
20-minute train ride from Rotterdam to Amsterdam. You can take the train
crazy.
directly from the airport. You literally just go downstairs and get on the train.
Isn't Berlin? I mean, have you done shows in Berlin? I
I
mean,
I haven't done shows in Berlin, but I visited Berlin, but it's been about 20 years.
okay. Gotcha. Because I've always heard from like friends I know that have been to Berlin that it's like very modern. Like they are
Oh,
focused
yeah.
on today, which no shit. But yeah. Yeah, like that's what I've always heard is like, that it's basically like a mixture of like an Apple commercial and a Nine Inch Nails video, which
Wow,
sounds about right.
that's a great way to put it. I will say
Yeah.
when I went to Berlin, one of the things that was very cool about it, it is kind of a late night industrial kind of town, and
Yeah.
like I remember it being like 12 o'clock at night, and people were like, now's when we go out. And we went to this like crazy, like dance party night club place that was like in an area that seemed abandoned. And then we like went through it looks like an abandoned street, and you walk through a door and a giant fence. And then there was a warehouse, and you walk through a wall in the warehouse. And then it was just this crazy party.
My God. Have you ever seen Triple X with Vin Diesel? It's one of the
Yes, but
cinema's
probably not since
masterpieces.
it came out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a masterpiece of cinema. I highly recommend watching it again. But every time that they show what I think is supposed to be Russia, it's actually I'm pretty sure it's Berlin, and it always has this weird feel where like everything feels cold, but it might be the middle of August.
Yeah, that
Like,
checks out. I'm sure
yeah,
they're just shooting it in like a nice icy blue kinda.
yeah. God, Vin Diesel. I mean, if like there are people who have won Oscars who didn't deserve them, and then there's people who have never won one who deserve it. He'd be up there.
Vin Diesel's you Groot for Groot, best supporting
Oh,
actor.
Groot would be good. I mean, hell, Dustin Hoffman won one, and all he did was just, sit there and like complain about it. Yeah, I mean, Rain Man
Yeah,
is. I have beef with Rain Man just in general. Tom Cruise should have won the Oscar,
that
not Dustin
that's
Hoffman.
that's a big, modern day point is that people feel like Tom Cruise had the harder part in Rain
100%. Anyone could have done the Dustin Hoffman thing. I do it for fun 90% of the day. So
Man.
yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise had to pretend to be nice for the last 15 minutes. You know how hard that is for him.
He's not known for being the kind of though I will say this, I know some people who've worked on sets with him, and
Hmm.
he hires like one of those crazy expensive like coffee trucks to come with this guy from here in Venice who I know, and he'll
Yeah.
just have the truck there 24/7 making like crazy like $7, $10 specialty coffees for anybody on set who wants it. And that just comes out of his pocket.
That is, I mean, I do think he
Also,
probably
he has Scientology slaves. So,
exactly. So yeah, I mean, you kind of weigh the two. Yeah, I imagine that hanging out with him for 15 minutes, I would be enamored by him.
Oh, 100%.
Like I watched a documentary, speaking of Berlin, watched a documentary not that long ago about Hitler's secretaries and how they like loved him. And this is like an interview. These are interviews when they're like 80 years old, and they still talk about him as being this like nice, friendly guy. And you're watching, you're like, how the fuck do they still think that? But it kind of makes sense. Like there are people who just can be like, boy, I shouldn't be comparing Tom Cruise to Hitler, but I'm probably not the first. But yeah, I
You're
mean,
just
it's just
compartmentalizing. Uh,
yes.
or they're compartmentalizing. Yeah, I just remember in the Trump trial, like his secretary like went up and like only had the nicest things to say about him and how they were like
Yeah.
this great like partnership and how much she loved him
Hmm.
and how but like
Yeah.
the way people are to one person isn't how they are to everybody.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, usually the worst people are very nice to a certain group of people that are around them.
Yeah, and it's
for how
usually
they get
people
away
who
with
they
it.
yeah, it's usually people who they perceive as, like, higher status as them or people they
Yes.
need to
Exactly.
use.
It's a need. Yeah, the need part of it is definitely, I think, plays a big role.
Yeah, it's
Like anybody.
manipulation.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. My God. So I saw that you went to. Did you go see the Dead at the Sphere?
I did, yeah.
Holy shit! I did a little deep dive. Not really a deep dive, to be honest, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of perused and I saw that, and I mean the just fuming envy that I had.
Oh,
My
dude, they're
God.
still playing. You can still go. Tickets are like
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. I when tickets first dropped for the Dead& Co. at the Sphere,
Uh huh.
uh, Ticketmaster did its, like, shitty, like, pricing thing where it's
Of
like
course.
I don't know what they call it, but they just basically screw you.
I
But
think that's
now
what they call it. Actually,
yeah,
it's the
and
screw
now
you tax. Yeah.
but now they're doing the thing now people who are trying to flip the tickets, nobody wants to pay these crazy prices, inflated
Right.
prices. So now if you buy a ticket like a day of, you're getting them for like half of what people were paying them. So if you want to
Really.
go see Dead& Co. at the Sphere, look on an app like Cash or Trade, which is
Uh
just
huh.
for like fans of the bands, and
Yeah.
you can score like tickets for like reasonably priced. I will
Right.
say this, the Sphere is the best concert experience I've ever had in my life. The Sphere is
Yeah.
the first time I've ever left a concert in my 41 years of life where my ears weren't ringing, and it's because they have something like 16,000 speakers in the place. So the
Mm,
music is feels loud, but it isn't loud. So wherever you're
right.
standing, it feels like it's the music's right next to you. And we got floor tickets. She got floor tickets, and the floor wasn't slammed. So
Yeah, I
the-
saw videos from people there, and I was very surprised at how much just open room there seemed to be
it was
in the
the
floor part of it.
yeah, it was the first time I've ever been in. Well, it's only the second time I've ever been on the floor of a concert,
Yeah.
but uh, yeah, it was like there was space around you. It wasn't like you were just slammed in with people in a
Right.
way where I was like, oh, this feels considerate. It didn't feel like they were trying
Yes.
to squeeze in as many people as they can to make a buck.
Dude, I think I've been floored twice for concerts, and it is miserable. I love being close, like getting to see it close, like that part's
Yeah.
great, but I hate having people up against me. And like I saw corn, not to
Oh,
brag,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I saw corn like on the floor and loved seeing them and did not like that somebody, had their pecker right in between my shoulder blades the entire time, which normally, but anyway, yeah, yeah, I like a good just to sit down and watch. Like I saw the Rolling Stones, and that's how it was. I was a little further back, but I was sitting down watching. I was like, all right, this is kind of more my speed. I ain't a young man anymore. I gotta,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
that feeling. Same thing. We stood being on the floor for Dead. I stood for over 3 hours, and by the end of that concert, I was screwed. Where I was like, I'd
yeah.
rather pay for the seat and be a little bit further away.
Are you considerate when you buy shoes of how it's going to make your back and knees feel?
Dude, I only pretty much rock Hokas now.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I have all kinds of other fun shoes. Like if I'm performing, I'll throw on loafers, but like my walking around shoes, I have these like engineered garments, Hoka collabs that are these crazy like leopard print old
yeah,
man shoes that I
yeah.
wear. And then I'm wearing these like Italian running shoes today that are like similar. Like,
Jesus,
yeah,
yeah. Look at you.
I bought them when I was over there because I needed another pair of running shoes. The ones I
Yeah,
had, wore into the ground.
dude. I've been wearing just plain ass Chuck Taylors since I was about 18,
Yeah,
and
that's
my feet look like. You ever seen the Elephant Man?
yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very, very much turning into Joseph Merrick from the ankles down, and it is. I got to do something about that. Yeah, maybe I am getting old.
Yeah, how old are you?
30. I'm a rough
Yeah,
30.
yeah, that's pretty much around when it starts to happen. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta get, like, a pair of cool I mean, I'm sure there's a cool, sensible, like a Doc Martin, where you
yeah.
still feel punk rock, but also at the same time, you size half a size up, and then you get an insult.
Oh, that's what I probably need to do because I
Yeah.
don't really want to go full classy because I'm still going to wear Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirts like a complete douche. But I do need to maybe kind of church it up a little bit down there.
Yeah, I
But
mean, a work boot and a rubber insole, and you're good to go.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
now, question,
Uh-huh.
how long have you been doing the straight to camera, like I would what do you even call it? It's not like it's kinda like facts or storytelling.
You talking about like the reels on like Instagram and
Yeah,
stuff? Uh, I mean, well, it started out they were just clips from the podcast that whenever I would do like just a solo episode, like I'd always try to end the episode with like telling some story from history because I'm like a huge history buff.
yeah, I can tell.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's what I went to school for and everything. I thought I was going to be a history teacher, and then
I mean, in a way, you kinda are.
exactly. I think in more my speed have become kind of a sort of a history teacher. Like, but yeah, I've been doing that for maybe like a year and a
Yeah,
half. Like really not that long. I
and when
just
did
like
they
doing it.
take off?
Um, maybe probably about 6 months ago. Really, like
Wow,
yeah,
and
it
what
started
was the
getting
first one?
shared by people who like have a big following, and then that ramped it up where I was like looking at like how what the fuck is going on here, and then I saw like people sharing it and who they were, and I was like, oh, I was like, damn, that's really cool that they would take the time to do that.
Y
And, yeah,
yeah, and what did it feel what is that 6 months period felt like? Because 'Cause it's gotta be pretty crazy to go from, like, almost like a small following to, like, a 500,000 people, like, pretty much
yeah,
overnight.
yeah. I mean, I had like if I'm remembering this right, I think I had like 800 followers this time last year. And most of those were like, most of those are probably bots, to be honest. Who knows? It was probably like 400 or 500 bots and a couple of, real people. Uh, and yeah, and then I just started making those little reels and that kind of sort of took off a little bit. I mean, yeah, very surprising. And it's, yeah, really weird. Like
So you were
it's,
doing the podcast before the reels?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I started doing the podcast probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't doing anything. I mean, it was getting like 30 views an episode, and like I was basically just pissing in the wind, like
Yeah.
talking into the abyss. And then, I mean, the reels start, doing well, and then the podcast does way better now. I mean, it's yeah, very strange.
Yeah, it's gotta be, like, a weird feeling to go from, like, in that quick, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the people who have like reached out and like I don't want to like name drop or anything, but people who I am a huge fan of, like, will reach out and, like, say something. I'm like, "Holy shit, I'm talking to,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
person." I'm like, "Damn, I never thought that would happen."
Yeah,
Like,
social media is kinda crazy like that. Sometimes that's happened to me
very
before with stand-up where it's like someone's in the crowd and I didn't know they were there, especially in LA. Like you can
yeah.
sometimes you get it. I remember I did a show during not this Netflix is a joke festival, but two ago, and a
Mhm.
really famous person took a photo of me and was like, "This person made me pee my pants." And they were so famous that like my managers called me the next day to be like, "What's happening?"
Dude, it's weird, isn't it? Where you're just like, "Oh, that person knows, like, they know I exist," which I don't really necessarily care about, like,
But it is,
fame and stuff, but it is cool, like yeah,
yeah, because I feel like a extremely normal dude.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like, I've been, like, a working class blue collar comic for, like, I don't know. I started when I was 20, I'm 21, and it's been my full-time job for probably, like, 13 or 14 years now,
Damn.
right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
so
still weird when somebody like Judd Apatow would answer an email from me. I'm like,
right.
"This is crazy."
Yeah, yeah, because you kind of still hold on to that thing of like, yeah, I'm not like a famous person. Like
Yeah,
why would I be on their radar in any
but
way?
really, all fame is just having people's attention, which you do have.
Yeah.
So now you
Yeah.
are internet famous.
Oh god. Yeah. Like the
And it becomes a
Octomom.
weird thing of like,
Yeah.
what do you like? Can you sustain yourself from this?
Yeah. Well, oh, you mean like money wise, or can I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
keep it
is it
going? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can I mean somewhat comfortably. I'm not like,
yeah, 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 but
I'm
that's
not
great.
destitute or anything. But yeah, yeah, I
That's awesome. If the reels
yeah.
are paying the bills, that's a home run.
Yes, that's been kind of the craziest thing. It's like, oh, I don't have to be a telemarketer anymore.
Yeah, and it probably allows you more time to do the research
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
find out that John Mulaney was almost in Home Alone.
Isn't that crazy?
It really was. When I
Yeah,
saw that, I was but it also makes perfect sense because
he's
Mulaney's from that suburb of Chicago.
right, and yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that they were just doing like an open casting call at the time, probably, or decently open, like for because I think he was in theater, like as a little kid, like little theater groups and stuff. So
That makes
yeah,
sense too.
yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, nothing against John Mulaney, but Macaulay Culkin, come on,
Knocked it out of the park.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wish
that's
I wish Macaulay Culkin still did more acting.
yeah. Did you ever watch Party Monster?
It's great.
Yeah, I love that movie. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a huge Marilyn Manson fan, as a musician, not,
Yeah, yeah.
gotta kind of preface that nowadays, but, like, even, like, his little cameo, I'm like, "Holy shit, like, Marilyn Manson's in this movie," but yeah, I love that movie. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew a guy when I did improv in Chicago 20 years ago,
Mhm.
who was in my improv classes when I was starting out. His name was Joe, really sweet guy, and he was part of that whole scene. And like a big majority of the costumes that they used in the
Uh-huh.
movie were his.
Oh, that's gr what's the guy's name that Macaulay Culkin put? Man, I always forget his name. He has, like, kinda yeah. Yeah, that shit yeah, weird, like, party culture like that. Like, I'm not a partier, like, never
Yeah,
have been. I mean, I was a drinker for sure, but I never like going places to drink.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, I would watch that movie and just be like, "Wow, this is the most opposite world that I could ever imagine." Like,
yeah. It's
just
pretty
so
crazy.
strange. Do you
Yeah,
do
I love
drugs?
that all that New York in the 80s and 90s stuff. That's like
Yes.
if I could have a time machine and pick a time to go back to, I would do New York in the 80s, like
That's
Talking
such
Heads, like CBGB's, Jim
yes.
Jarmusch movies, the blown out Lower East Side, where you can get like a brownstone for just paying the taxes, like
Yeah.
that period.
Yeah. And, like, cruising.
100%.
I love that
That's
movie.
Freakin's best movie, in my opinion.
I love that movie so much.
Same.
Yeah. Do you know the little backstory about, like, the weird, the serial killer? Like, you've seen The Exorcist, I'm sure. Yeah.
I have seen The Exorcist, not in a long time,
Okay.
but
So in The Exorcist, the technician is an actual radiology technician. He wasn't an actor. This guy named Paul Bateson. And
uh-huh.
Paul Bateson, like, right after they filmed The Exorcist, got arrested for murder and went to prison. And William Freakin and everybody on the set was like, "What the fuck? How'd this guy like? This is one of the nicest people. Like, he was cast in this movie because he was so nice to Linda Blair, like on the set of the movie." So William Freakin was like, "Damn, like he should just be the tech, like he has this bedside manner, whatever." And so William Freakin like went and talked to him and everything, like in prison, was like, "Man, what happened to you? Like, why are you doing this?" They talk a little bit. Then William Freakin's next movie is Cruising, which is about the trash bag murders in New York City of
Yeah.
a random serial killer going around and killing gay dudes that he's finding in like gay bars. Well, it turns out the trash bag murderer is that guy, Paul Bateson, and no one ever knew that. He admitted to William Friedkin later that he was that murderer, and that they finally had caught him.
Oh my god.
Like, what are the chances of that? That he
That's
cast the guy?
insane. Or on the opposite, did he tell William Freakin and then William Freakin wrote a movie about it? And
No,
then
so the movie was already being written by somebody else. I don't. William Freakin didn't write it. It was already kind of like in that limbo of like, I have a script, please someone fucking make this thing. So
yeah,
it was already going around and getting some attention
that's
because those
crazy.
murders happened in the like early 70s.
Yeah, and they made
So
the movie in the late 70s. I think it was made in 79. I
yeah,
think.
yeah, it was released in 80.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in 79. So he had already been arrested. The murders were done. It's just nobody knew who it was.
Cruising's like one of those movies that n- like I never saw until I was an adult and I was
Same.
like mad that I didn't see it as a teenager
Yes. Oh,
because
yeah.
it was just so mind-blowing, and it's like still it would still be it came out in 80, it's
Yeah.
2024, it's 44 years old, and it would still be edgy now if it came out.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
also it's one of the best Al Pacinos ever. Like, I love Al Pacino's Serpico, but this
Yeah.
is like a different Al Pacino cop movie.
Well, it's
Like,
Al Pacino, like
as a leather daddy.
Yeah, well,
like
yeah, and
struggling with his own sexuality.
yes.
It's a crazy movie.
Yeah, I mean, the ending is so bizarre, like, where you're just like, I do, and William Friedkin had said, like, multiple times, like, "There is no explanation for this ending. I was just kind of done making this movie," which is
That's so funny.
hilarious. But, yeah, like, I mean, he also just doesn't seem like he wants to be there the entire time, like, as an actor. Like, he's just like it's the weirdest performance by Al Pacino
But it's
ever.
also like one of my favorite like like shot and directed movies because like
Yes.
the camera does not look away from stuff that would never be in a you see Bruno Kirby getting fisted.
Yeah. Oh, I know. How about that? I mean, dreams do come true. Yeah, that's I know, like, yeah, yeah. I remember because I watched it for the first time really not that long ago, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, "How the fuck did this movie get made?" Which it almost didn't. I mean, there was protests every
Yeah,
day, which, makes sense for the time, especially, but you're watching it like, "Damn, this is" like, that they even took this dive into that world, which was, pretty
100%.
untouched.
Especially how homophobic everybody is. That's
Yeah.
part of what I love about it too, is it's like that felt like a real moment in history in the '80s. I know like leather daddy culture still exists. I used to live a couple blocks from the Eagle, and my car got towed once when they shut it down for like leather daddy fest.
Yeah.
Um, but like
Yeah.
it feels authentic, you know?
Very.
It's in a way where for such a like shocking movie, it doesn't and no part of it feels over exaggerated. It feels
No, it
very
doesn't.
real.
Right, if it's like, yeah, because there's certain movies that sort of dive into, like, let's say, just the underground sex world, and they seem dumb as hell, like, in those parts, like, Seven, there's a part in Seven, and where
Yeah,
you're just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Okay, this isn't real, like, this shit isn't
100%.
happening." But I love that movie, I mean, there's nothing
Yeah,
against that
yeah, yeah.
movie, there's just that one part with, like, the dildo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
knife dildo, where you're just like, "This is fucking weird."
Yeah.
But Cruising, the whole movie is basically taking place in a similar situation, but never feels like they're trying to like make gay people seem like
Weird.
degenerates or something,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
you would think they would at that time, and like you could kind of blur the line by doing that, but it
Yeah,
doesn't.
and
Just
even seeing the way that they talk about how the cops treat the dudes,
yes,
like saying that they're unfairly like
hmm,
picked on by the police just for who they are
right,
in
yeah,
1981.
yeah. No, there are certain movies which they tend to be my favorite movies that just feel like that exact moment in that exact time in that exact place. Like
100%.
like those are my favorites. Like there's just some movies that like it had to have been made that year in that city.
Weird transition, but Harry Met Sally,
I
also
loved
with
it.
Bruno Kirby.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit different of a Bruno Kirby, but yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love
One
that
of my
movie.
all-time favorites, and it's,
Yes.
like, so of its time. It's, like, timeless because it's so specific
Yeah.
to when it was made.
Yes, definitely. Which I think there are some movies that are even better that were not made that are taking place in an earlier time, but they do it so perfectly that it feels like it was made at that time. Like Stand By Me, that's a Rob Reiner. It kind of
Yeah,
reminded me of that. Like when I watch Stand By Me,
Licorice
I know
Pizza.
this. Yes, Licorice Pizza, Dazed and Confused is a
Yeah,
great one. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like there are certain movies that just you're like, damn, like I know this movie was not made in 1956, but it sure feels like it was. Like
and it's funny, but I think it's also because most of those directors grew up in that time period.
yes, which
So they're
you
like
kind of have to.
yeah, it's their eye on that specific thing that they hit that tone so well.
Yeah, Boogie Nights is another one. Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies, and it
Yeah.
is like only Paul Thomas Anderson can make that movie because he
Yeah,
was
I'm
obsessed with
excited for his
70s
new one.
porn. Yeah. Oh, he is incredible. I'm a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan. Yeah, there's just certain movies that like are just timeless, whether even if they weren't made in that, or made in the time that they're set in. Like they
Yeah.
just do it so perfect. Yeah. Do you sleep with the TV on or off? That's a
Uh,
kind of weird question to
um,
ask, but
so I'm a TV off. I don't have a TV in my bedroom, but I still
yeah.
once in a while like to fall asleep on the couch with the TV on.
Do
Like
you
I'll do it
uh,
like once or twice a month.
Gotcha, gotcha. I was wondering if you have, like, so for me, I fall asleep with the TV on every night. Can't do it otherwise. But I have, like, a set list of movies that I'm turning it to one of those movies because it will put me right out because 'cause I've seen them a million times. So I was wondering, like, what movie do you think you've seen the most? I was
Oh,
asking in a very
wow.
long-ass
What
way,
movie
but
I've seen the most? I mean, When Harry Met Sally is definitely up there.
yeah.
Hackers would probably be up there.
Really?
I probably watched
Johnny Lee
Hackers
Miller?
when I was a kid. I probably watched the movie Hackers roughly 100 times. I rented it from the video store every weekend
God
because,
damn.
like, I thought that subculture was so cool.
It
The way
is.
everyone dressed was so cool, and then Angelina Jolie was like God's gift to a
Yes.
boy in puberty.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I'm, a little bit younger, so, like, I kind of wasn't really that wasn't really like a thing for me, but
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Whenever you see those, like, there are certain movies that you're just like, I want to adapt that personality and live
yeah.
in that world. I mean, this is even older, but for me, like, I would watch Breakfast Club all the time, and I
Oh,
wanted to
great.
be John Bender
Yeah,
so bad, even
yeah.
though, in real life, the principal was actually right about everything. There's no way John Bender didn't up be end up being, a homeless drug addict. But I wanted to, like, wear a bandana around my ankle, like, which I would have looked like such a douche in fifth grade. But
Now
yeah,
you got it on the head instead.
exactly. I adapted a little bit of it. Yeah, there's no I Hackers, man, that's such a good one. Mine's Jurassic Park. Seen it
Yeah, I've
so
seen that a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jurassic
Well,
Park and Young Guns. It's
oh,
just
wow, I haven't seen
yeah,
that in forever.
so
Be
good.
being a kid from New York, it was more the not movies, but more the TV shows that played on WPLX
Uh-huh.
11, so or WPIX 11. We would
Yeah,
It was all Seinfeld, Cheers, Frasier, and Coach reruns. So if I was putting on
gotcha.
something that I wanted to fall asleep to, it would be a rerun of Seinfeld, Frasier, Coach, or Cheers. Probably Cheers, honestly. I think
Yeah.
Cheers is probably the best TV comedy ever. It's like Seinfeld and Cheers are like right here and here.
I put Cheers above Seinfeld for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get into watching Seinfeld until I was quite a bit older, and I think it's okay. Like, I think it's really just Larry David. I'm a huge Larry David fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a Jerry Seinfeld fan in a sense. I mean, nothing wrong with Jerry Seinfeld or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah.
I love Larry David's like I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite shows too. Like, I love, like, just the way certain people think. We're just
I
like,
will
how
say
the
this,
fuck do you
as
think
I
that
get older and older, Seinfeld makes more and more sense to me.
way?
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
when
yeah.
I was watching it in my when I teens and late teens, I was like, "Okay, this is funny." But now that I'm like late 30s, 40s, that's when it really just all I was like, "Oh, this is maybe the best show ever."
Yeah. I definitely just hated it growing up. Like, anytime I would see a rerun, I'm like, I'm not watching this bullshit. And then later it became a thing where I'm like, oh no, this show is actually, like, it was just going over my head as a
That
kid.
I think it was the same for me too when I was
Yeah.
younger. I think I just didn't and I didn't get like the so because it was about adult life.
Right.
Also, one of the most underrated sitcoms of all time, Mad About You,
Well,
with
Paul
Paul
Reiser.
Reiser and
Oh,
Helen
he's
Hunt.
amazing. Yeah. Paul
Yeah,
Reiser. So yes, that's a great show.
yeah.
Yeah. I
The
always
first,
forget
like,
about
3
that one.
seasons of that might be 3 of the best seasons of any TV show.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, that show that's one that used to come on like a Nick at Night whenever I was a kid that I would watch. Yeah, Mad About You a lot.
Y
It's like, man, this show is amazing.
Yeah, and you can get the
Yeah,
DVD box set on Amazon for, like, 12 bucks.
it's
The
well worth it.
complete series.
That's crazy. That's fucking wild. Yeah.
From I think it's from Shout TV or something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Mad About You. I mean, I remember we would get, like, the HBO free previews, like, as a kid, where you get it for, like, a
Same.
weekend.
There was
Yeah.
nothing more exciting in the world than the HBO free preview
Oh
because
my
you would get to see
god.
Chris Rock do stand-up and you would get to see boobs on Real,
Oh, yeah.
Real
Real
Sex.
Sex. Oh, Real Sex is the greatest show ever made. Well, I remember watching that at about 9 years old and seeing people that dressed up like horses, and I was like, "Boy, I know I'm naive, but I did not know I was this naive." I was
I
like, "This is what
remember that
sex
one.
is?" Yeah.
The
It's like a
craziest
pony boy
thing
or some
about
shit.
watching Real Sex was that moment when you think you would hear your parents coming, you would change the channel, and there was that moment of silence in between, and you would hear that they were also watching HBO's Real Sex.
Oh, no, I got you. So whenever it was either Dish or DirecTV, whichever one we had, for a little bit, it was like so expensive to have two TVs play different shows. So the living room TV and my room TV played the same thing for like, I mean, this is just for a little bit. So I would have to make sure that both of my parents were asleep and then turn it on to Real Sex, but then listen for one of them to come out of the room and turn on the living room TV. Because if they
Yeah.
did, that's what it'd be on. And one time that happened, and then they came in, knocked on my door, and I had to pretend like I was asleep. Meanwhile, pitching full tent in a awkward situation.
I had a cousin who had cracked a jailbroken cable box.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They, it was called the hot box. You pay somebody for all, and you got all the channels, and the they had Spice, and they had the Playboy channel, which were both softcore porn
Right.
channels.
Yeah.
And I remember once my cousin and I were like watching it, and he fell asleep with the TV still on, and then my aunt came down and it was on, and I had to pretend to be asleep. And then
Oh,
she found the remote and shut it off and didn't say
God.
anything.
You know those stories of like World War II vet soldiers whenever they're having to pretend to be dead so they don't get shot? Like that's
Uh-huh.
what you feel like for a second. You're like, this is my Normandy. Like, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I never got caught. In my lifetime have never been caught masturbating, which I think is astounding. It's-
I also hold a 0-0 record for being caught. And I have a bit about in my stand-up special, the one that's on Amazon
yeah.
or YouTube, people can watch it on. Um, the that one I have a bit about like being in my like late 30s and my dad almost like trying to
Yeah.
catch me.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great bit. Yeah, that's
Thanks, man.
that's so good. Yeah, there's some people make mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
special.
Yeah, that's a dude, that special's so good. Like, yeah,
Thanks, man.
it
It feels like a million years old to me, so it's like a little
was
tough for me to see now.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Was it
but
2 years ago that it came
I
out?
shot it in June of 2021, and it came out or July of 2021. I shot it
Mhm.
in July of 2021, and it came out June or July, and it came out in April of 22.
Gotcha, gotcha. Whenever you're getting ready for a special, which this may be a question you've been asked a million times, I don't know, but
Yeah.
um, like, how do you know that okay, right now is the time to go ahead and film this material?
Um,
Like when you're
well,
done filming it, do
it,
you ever think like, oh shit, I should have done this? Like,
there is only in that special, there is one joke that my friend gave me a tag for
yeah,
that's not in the special, and the fact it's not in the special drives me nuts, and I put it on my don't tell set just so I can put that tag in
right,
because
right.
I love that little line so much.
Hmm.
Um, but the like the logistics of filming one, you kind of got to know like, okay, I kind of have it, and then you just have to like be like, okay, I'm gonna just tour like a crazy person for 6 months, and we're gonna film it at the end of this tour.
Yeah, yeah,
So right now I have somewhere between like an hour and 10 and an hour and probably 15, 20 minutes worth of material. So I probably have like enough right now to shoot another one. But there's also like stuff that's like feels more topical that I wouldn't want in. And then there's some stuff that's just kind of like my older stuff that I wouldn't want in
hmm,
a special. So I have to figure out like, do I want to put little chunk of this on
yeah,
like a shorter Comedy Central thing or a shorter Don't Tell thing or a late night set?
right, right.
And then like what's going to be my hour? So that's kind of a large part of like this Paris 30 day because I'm going for 24 days and I'm going to do about 30 shows in
Okay,
24 days of
yeah,
just running my hours. So by the end of that, I feel like I'll be like, okay, this is dialed in.
right, right. Yeah,
And
and you'll know.
it
Yeah,
Yeah, and it felt pretty close. And then in April, I got a new joke that's like 12 minutes long that feels like, oh, this kind of ties everything together a little bit.
Gotcha. Do you set a time limit, like, of what you think is, like, how long you want that special to be? Because I know
Not
it seems like more specials are getting shorter,
Yeah, it's because
which I
people's attention spans are getting shorter.
yeah, and I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing for specials all the
No.
time. Like, I think sometimes there are specials where you're like, this could have been about 10 minutes less. It's never like a huge chunk, but sometimes I've
Yeah.
watched somewhere like, I don't know if an hour
y-
and 15 was the right amount of time for
It
this.
never is.
Yeah.
My first one is an hour and 6, and I think that's too long. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
like
gotcha.
in retrospect, um, and I cut probably about 20 minutes out of that one. I did like an hour and a half the night I taped. Um,
Yeah.
and so the next I go back and forth. I'm like, I would like to maybe do like a half hour YouTube one again, like a half
Mhm.
hour, 40-minute YouTube one, and then the next one hopefully do somewhere else for like the full hour and kind of have I know the venue I want to do it in. I know
Yeah.
like, what bits I want to kind of do in it.
So when you're saying for that special that you cut out, how much you say about 20 minutes or
About
so?
20 minutes, yeah.
So do you continue with that 20 minutes or does that get dropped too?
No, that stuff's still in my act. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if
I
it
would
like
well, I wouldn't say all of it. I would say about like 10 to 12 minutes of it I'm still
okay. Gotcha,
is it
gotcha.
because there's like a place for it.
Right. Yeah, I just didn't know if you get like burn out on it after a while or if it's just like
The
it's just
funny
not for the special, but it is
it would
still
no,
needs to go.
it did great, but just for like I had to cut something and for time, it made the most sense that like if I lift this chunk
Mhm.
out right here, that's about 15, 20 minutes. I say this line here and it can go into this line here at the end.
Yeah.
And then we just
Gotcha.
lift this whole section up.
Yeah. I mean that
Versus
makes sense.
Yeah, versus going in and just taking out little parts and different pieces of jokes. Um, Bill Burr gave me that advice. He was like, "Don't try to go in and just like prune here, prune there." He's like, "Just take out whole bits and then you still have them."
When did you get in touch with Bill? Like, how long have you known Bill Burr? Because I know you. I mean, it's through all things
Uh,
comedy and everything. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if it's yeah.
I met Bill after he cast me to be on his show.
Okay, I didn't know if you knew him
I didn't.
prior or
No,
okay.
he picked me off a tape. So
Damn.
I was touring with this comedian. Her name is Whitney Cummings,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
Whitney was getting ready to shoot a special, and it was being produced by Bill's company, All Things
Hmm.
Comedy. And there's this guy named Mike who runs Bill's company. He's like the CEO of it, and Al Madrigal because they all three they
Yeah.
were together. And Mike saw me when they were scouting venues for Whitney do some stand up, and then we grabbed coffee, and he was like, "There's this thing if you want to submit a tape," and I was like, "Yeah, I want to submit a tape." And
Yeah.
then one day I was just in the writer's room for Magic for Humans, and I got a phone call from him, and he was like, "Hey, just want you to know, made you an offer. Just a heads up, Comedy Central didn't really want you on it, but Bill was like, no, this guy's funny. We're putting him on." And
Dude,
yeah,
that has to feel wild.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember the first time I met him was at like a warm-up show for it at the Comedy Store in LA, and I walked up to him and was like, "Hey, I just want to introduce myself. My name's JF Harris. I'm going to be doing your show." And he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are. You're funny." I was like, "Thank you so much, sir." And then I like immediately ran away. But since then, I talked to him a little bit, not a ton, because I
Yeah.
don't bother the most famous stand-up comedian in the
Yeah.
world. But
Yeah.
he also is one of the nicest guys. Like he picked another guy, Joey Villagomez,
Mhm.
literally just was like sitting in bed scrolling, saw one of his stand-up clips, and like 2 days later, he had an offer to like be
The
on the show. And Joey's just like a really funny working class comedian out of Chicago who just like Bill just happened to catch a reel on Instagram and then
God.
like gave him a credit.
Dude, it's crazy how shit like that can work out. Like, I mean, there's no like overnight success. That's all bullshit, I think. But like, there is certain things where you're just like,
Yeah,
damn,
you were doing this podcast for 3 years before the clips blew
right,
up.
exactly. And people would say like, oh, damn, it blew up overnight. Which I mean, it blew up is kind of weird, but like, that's kind of true because was doing nothing, but I wasn't doing nothing. I mean, I was,
Exactly.
working on it. And so same for you, same for I mean, really,
Yeah, I've been doing
I don't
comedy since I'm 20
exactly.
like and I have a career, but at some point I believe one of these jokes will do the thing that jokes do on the internet. And I've had ones get like 3 million, 5 million, and you get 3,000 followers,
Right.
6,000 followers. But like, I know that at some point, one of these things will probably critical mass and get me to that level where I can make a healthy living on the road and not have
Yeah.
to worry so much about money. Cause I'm in that middle ground,
Right.
make what a teacher probably makes and, you know,
Same. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And I just,
exactly where I'm at, which I'm okay with it, but
same.
yeah, I want, who wouldn't want like a little more? I don't necessarily care about money that much. I just want to be in a position where I don't got to worry about it.
Yeah.
Like
Like
I don't have to look at my bank account to,
to
you
buy a
know,
coffee.
yeah, exactly. Like, I
Yeah.
just want
Yeah.
to be like, all right.
Yeah,
Like,
same. And I've been in both spots before. I've had like good
yeah,
writing jobs where I make a bunch of money, and then I've had
yeah.
like lean times when I'm just kind of relying on stand up.
Or-
And yeah, but I got a woman in my life. We're planning on maybe having kids one day. It would be
Yeah.
nice to be able to know that I'm going to be able to provide for my young.
Dude, the amount of stress that I don't think a lot of parents know that they put their kids through when they don't have money is so I mean, I still have so much stress around money just from growing up. And I mean, my parents did okay. Like it wasn't something like horrible, but I was always so stressed out about money.
It's
And I'm
funny.
like so weird. Like, I mean, I was 8 years old and I was worried about us having money. It's
That's
just,
crazy. I'm the flip. I probably knew somewhere inside, but we were kind of broke. Like my dad's
mhm,
a fireman, my mom's a housekeeper, and like
yeah.
they had like some 18% crazy mortgage interest rate back in the 90s. And like they were like sometimes we'd pay the mortgage and we'd have like 20 bucks and we just have to make it work. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so that's why we like did a lot of breakfast for dinner and mac
Dude.
and cheese with hot dogs and like, but
Yeah.
they were so chill about it that I kind of have the it's all going to work out mentality when it comes to money.
Dude, breakfast for dinner is the biggest sham
Oh,
whenever you're
I
a kid
still
and you
do it.
think, "Oh, no, 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 it's amazing." But when you're a kid and you're eating breakfast for dinner, you're like, "God, this is so awesome. I'm having a fucking pancake for dinner." And then you realize, "Oh, it's because we were poor."
Yeah,
Like,
because
that's
oatmeal is cheap.
yeah, and eggs are insanely cheap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, eggs and a pancake, like, bon appetit. I'm thinking I'm, like, living like a king.
But you wanna know
Yeah.
what? Still my favorite food in the world. If you were
Oh,
like,
always.
you can go to a five-star restaurant with one friend and have a really nice meal, or you can get, like, 5 or 6 comics together and go to a diner at 2 in the morning and eat french fries and eggs and drink coffee. N
There is
Nothing better.
n yeah, there's no chance in hell I'm picking the five-star restaurant.
Yeah, I
I mean,
wanna
it
go
could
shoot the shit with a bunch of people.
yes. I mean, that person could be Jesus, and I'm still probably not going. I mean, sorry, Messiah, but, you know, yeah, there's not a chance. Like, yeah, I love breakfast food's the best. It's
Yeah,
just, and I, obviously am not like the healthiest eater, but boy, do I love fast food and I love breakfast food. I
I'm
don't
in the
care.
I'm
Like,
in the middle ground when it comes to eating. I'm like pretty good, and then I'll do 2 things in a week that'll fuck up everything. And I'm
yeah,
like, right now I'm on my like trying to lose weight again shit because I want to like
same.
film another special and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dude, I lost when I that first stand up special, my last stand up special, I lost like I was like 220 something and I got down to one side. I lost like 40, 50 pounds for that one. And it was
Really? Damn,
90
dude.
90% of it was just walking. I just walked every day, 2 hours a day.
Crazy how that it doesn't seem like you would, but it
Yeah,
works. Like
it works.
walking. And yeah, I my thing is like if I exercise, I will eat healthy. It just is
Yes,
gonna happen. It's the second I stop exercising that within 2
100%.
days, Taco Bell sounds great.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things where I have to do both. Like I
Yeah.
can't I can't do one or the other.
For me, it's the touring. Like, how do
Oh,
you
That
eat
has to
healthy
be.
when you're can't cook for yourself and stuff like that.
Well, and
Like,
comedy clubs aren't really serving,
that's what
the
happened.
healthiest
I
foods.
got like grilled chicken pizza twice this week, and I ate like a whole pizza like this,
Yeah.
bigger than my head.
Dude, I mean, I'll like hot wings are my weakness, and it seems to be the staple of any comedy club is
Oh, 100%.
oh man. And I'll eat my body weight in hot wings. Like it's just one of those things that yeah, I can't imagine. Like I know, obviously there are comics who do stay in shape, like, and I don't know how they do it. I don't get it. Like there's some
Uh,
people just have like the mental, they're just able to not
it's
do it.
so much of it is just routine, I've learned. Like,
Yeah.
as somebody who's like gotten in shape and been in shape, it's like what I do is I wake up, I go out, I ride my bike for an hour, I come home, then I have a protein shake.
Yeah.
2 hours later, I eat a stick of jerky and an RX bar. For dinner, I eat whatever the fuck I want, which is usually proteins and a shit ton of vegetables I air fried.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make that a habit, it's very sustainable.
Yeah.
It's just getting it to the habit point is always my weakness. Like
y-
I'm good for 5 or 6 days. I'll knock anything out for 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah. I think like signing up for classes in advance helps and shit like that. Not like
yeah,
not
feeling an
joining a gym,
obligation.
but like almost like a class pass where you're like, Wednesday, I'm going to yoga this time. I said I would. They charge
Yes.
me if I don't.
Yes, feeling an obligation to do something always helps.
You know what's funny? I don't remember who this was, but I know somebody who was like, I got to lose this much weight by this much time. And there's like a website that you can give money to, and they'll hold on to your money. And if you don't achieve your goal, they'll donate it to whatever you say. And it was somebody who was like,
Really?
if I don't hit my goal, they're going to give the money to the KKK. And they were like, so I'm going to get in shape because I'm not giving money to the Klan.
God. I you know, I would like to think I'd be in the same boat, but man, they might be getting new hoods by the end of the month if I if I
They're
send it to them. Jesus. Yeah,
going to make a Bed Bath and Beyond run on you.
oh yeah, a little Home Depot run, get some lumber. Yeah, it's yeah. I ca I need to figure out something like that. Do you drink? Are you a drinker?
Now I'm sober 11 years.
Hell yeah. Like
Yeah.
is it like California sober, that
No, 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 no,
bullshit, or like
100% sober. Like,
so Grateful Dead show?
hell yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. Music.
Amazing.
The music and the visuals of the sphere, which are
Yeah.
nuts.
See, I'm the same way. I mean, I quit drinking probably like 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I've never really been into anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it doesn't appear that way, but yeah, I've never. I mean, I did smoke weed, obviously, like in high school and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of the old jazz cabbage.
No, yeah,
Um,
nor am I. It never
yeah,
really worked for me.
yeah, I'm too afraid to
Yeah.
try things. I'm
Yeah.
afraid that it's going to permanently do something that I don't
Yeah.
want it to do.
I mean, then that's a good enough reason to never do it.
Oh, I'm so glad that I think that way. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sometimes it would be nice to be like, oh, it would be cool to like smoke a joint and listen to the Doors or some shit. And then I think I could just listen to the Doors, like
Yeah, and
maybe
be
hold my
aware.
breath for a little bit. Yeah, like, yeah,
Well, there's a comedian, his name's Shang Wang,
hmm
and he has a joke about turns out he didn't really like smoking weed. He just needed to take deep breaths.
yeah, yeah. That that is great. Yeah, yeah, I just never. Okay, if you could try any drug and there's zero repercussions, you just get to feel it for 30 minutes, see what it's like, and you go back to normal. What would you try?
Oh man, that's a tough call because everyone pound for pound says heroin is the best feeling on earth.
That's
But
my
also,
answer.
but also, I would like to know what it feels like to like do like ayahuasca or EDM or mushrooms or
Yeah, DMT
acid
and all
to
the
have
other stuff.
like a trip. DMT scares me. Out of all of them, I think that's the craziest one because it's like
Yeah,
you use the stuff that's stored in your brain that normally releases when you die, and I'm like, so what happens when you die?
yeah, yeah. I don't want things to change. I don't like change that much.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I don't want my. I mean, obviously there are things about me I'm sure I'd like to change. I have massive anxiety, which apparently ayahuasca gets rid of. But I'll tell you, there's nothing more anxiety inducing than going to the middle of the jungle and taking a drug with a bunch of mysterious people that don't speak English.
Yeah,
So
that they've picked off the back of a toad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not really the most relaxing vacation I could imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I might just stick with being anxious and like staying here and not traveling. I don't mind.
Meditation's also pretty good.
Yeah. But like the David Lynch bullshit or just like do you meditate? Because he does like that
I
weird.
do meditate. I've been meditating off and on for, probably 11 years, 12 years.
Is it like the transcendental meditation?
I
Like,
don't
is
do
there a
t
diff?
I don't do TM,
Okay.
but people swear by it that it's the greatest thing in the world.
Seems like a cult. Like,
I mean, all it is just sitting.
yeah.
There's, like,
Yeah.
nothing else to it. All I mean, well, they give you, like, a mantra, and that's just the thing you repeat, but the only reason
Right.
that's just to take up from your brain from like, you can literally give yourself one. You can
Yeah.
like, I just breathe I just count my breaths to 10. That's
Oh,
it.
okay. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I have tried meditating, it does work, but again, it goes back to the, I can't stick with shit thing. So,
Yeah,
uh,
but
like I
you that's not definite. That's only right.
no. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, that's just what it's been like for the past that I've been trying to do it. I mean, who
Yeah,
knows? A year from now, I might be meditating every single day. I don't know.
but also
Hopefully.
that's totally not true that you're a person who doesn't stick with stuff because you've done over 100 episodes of this podcast.
Yeah, that yeah, I need to really remind myself about things like that because it is a miracle I have stuck by, with this shit. Like I know, I'm not a sticker to her. Um,
Well, I think it's probably because you have a lot of fun and enjoy it.
that's the main thing is I like doing this. Like
Yeah,
it's enjoyable. It's hard in some ways, but could be way worse.
yeah,
So it's not. I don't have anything to complain about.
yeah,
Like
like
I'm a complainer, a lot, which is not great. I find things to complain about, and then that becomes the focus. I don't really have anything to complain about. Are you ever upset that they haven't made more Transformers movies?
no.
Okay, all
I've
right,
never I only saw the first one with Shia LaBeouf,
they're fucking horrible.
and I'm okay.
Yeah, well,
No offense. I think Shia LaBeouf's probably will make more movies that are good, but I don't need another Transformers
yeah,
movie.
Peanut Butter Falcon was very good. I don't know if you ever
I
watched
would
that, but
I'd rather just Michael Bay make more cool shit that's not Transformer movies.
yeah, he was the person who was originally supposed to make a Saving Private Ryan.
What?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
or I
wa
mean, the first person asked, and then he looked at the script and was like, "No, I ain't doing
That's
this."
crazy.
Yeah, could you imagine how shitty that movie would be?
Or not just crazy. The action
Well,
scenes would be sick.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it has to be Spielberg, but yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those where you're just like, "Boy, how would this have happened?"
Man, I wanna see Tom Hanks in a Michael Bay movie.
It
And
wasn't gonna be Tom Hanks, it was going to be Kevin Costner, and Ryan was gonna be Neil Patrick Harris.
wow,
So
that's crazy.
there's that. Yeah. But still would have had Vin Diesel, thank God, which is really, really a nice full circle moment. And then last question. Uh, do you have any irrational fears?
Um, that I'm gonna die every
Well, that's
once in
not
a while.
irrational. I mean,
Um,
that's my biggest fear, but I wouldn't say if dying is irrational.
irrational fears. No, I mean, outside of like when I think when I was younger, because of my anxiety, I had a little like, is the world gonna end kind of fear
Okay.
because I saw Deep Impact and Armageddon 2 weeks apart, back to back in eighth grade.
Yeah.
Kind of screwed me up for a while.
Yep. Armageddon
Mixed
did
in
it
with
to me
some
too.
9/11 PTSD. But for the
Yes.
most part, no, nothing
Yeah.
too crazy.
Gotcha. Grasshoppers for me, cicadas, any kind of flying insect that's, decently large.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'll get me. Being in Texas isn't the greatest place to be for
No,
that.
I would imagine not.
Yeah, last night I was sitting on the outside and there was 3 cicadas like in trees next to me. Pretty sure they were triangulating where I was. So yeah, there's mine. But man, this has been awesome. I know
Super
I got to
fun.
let you go. I've had a blast talking with you. One more time, where can people find you? Stuff.
Instagram, the JF Harris. It's the best way to find my stuff. I also have a YouTube channel that has like behind the scenes look into stand up comedy with like longer form videos on like how do you do stand up on TV, things like that. My touring vlogs from around the world, and then lots of short form clips. And then those are my primary two for socials. And then just come see me live at a show. And if you want me to come to wherever you are, just slide into my DMs and let me know what city you're in.